I was the only human aboard the Ravith, an alien battleship belonging to the Vera Dominion, towering, crystalline beings whose bodies shimmered like living gemstones. To them, I was a curiosity. To most, a weak, soft-skinned creature from a primitive world. I'd been stationed there as a linguist, one of the first humans allowed to serve aboard an alien military vessel. I was supposed to study their language, culture, and customs. But I quickly learned that the Vera didn't think much of humans. Especially Captain Verithal. She stood over 7 feet tall, with fractal silver-blue armor fused into her crystalline body, her eyes glowing with a faint azure flame. When I was first assigned under her command, she had looked down at me, literally and metaphorically, and smirked. A human linguist? On my warship, she'd said, her tone sharp and mocking. Tell me, little Terran, do your soft bones rattle when we jump through hyperspace? The rest of the crew laughed. I did what I always did, smiled politely, swallowed my pride, and muttered something about being just here to help. That first month was rough. Every day, someone found a new way to remind me that I didn't belong. The Vera were an old, proud warrior species. Honor meant everything to them. Humanity, by comparison, was still new to the galactic scene, loud, clumsy, and overly emotional. But then came the Tarkine ambush. We were patrolling the edges of neutral space when the Tarkine attacked, insectoid raiders with ships like serrated knives. The Ravith was outnumbered 5-1. As alarms screamed and the hull shuddered, I found myself trapped in a collapsing corridor. A blast door malfunctioned and pinned my leg. Smoke filled the air. I couldn't see. I thought I was done for. Then I heard her voice, sharp, commanding, and closer than I expected. Human, hold on. It was Captain Verithal. She tore through the mangled metal as if it were paper, shards of glowing steel flying everywhere. Her crystalline hands burned from the friction, but she didn't stop until the door gave way. She lifted me easily and ran, straight through the chaos, energy bolts raining around us. When we reached the med bay, I looked up at her, half-conscious, dazed. You came for me? Her faceted lips curled slightly. Don't flatter yourself, human. You're part of my crew. I don't lose crew. But her eyes betrayed her tone, a flicker of something I hadn't seen before. Concern. Middle. After the ambush, something changed between us. She still teased me, still called me Fragile One and Terran Softskin, but her tone had shifted, less mocking, more playful. One day, I was reviewing a translation of an ancient Varan honor code when she appeared beside me, her luminous frame casting dancing reflections across the console. Still reading about our ways? She asked. Trying to understand you, I replied. It's hard to translate a language built around honor and battle when your words for love and war share the same root. She tilted her head. That's because they are the same to us. You fight for what you love. You love what you fight for. Her eyes softened for a moment. Then she laughed, low and musical. You humans wouldn't understand. Maybe not, I said. But we bleed for what we love too. We just don't always have claws to do it. She stared at me then, really stared. And for the first time, she didn't laugh. Days later, during a joint combat simulation, we were paired together. The crew made jokes about how I'd slow her down. I could tell it irritated her more than she let on. Halfway through the exercise, our opponents, another squad of Vera soldiers, cornered us. One aimed a plasma spear straight at me. I froze. Before I could react, Verithal lunged, taking the hit to her shoulder. Her armor cracked, molten crystal dripping down her side. She spun, disarmed her attacker, and finished the match in a blur of blazing energy. When the simulation ended, she turned to me, breathing hard. You need to move faster, she said. You didn't have to do that, I said quietly. She glared, but her voice trembled slightly. You're under my command, human. If anyone harms you, it is my failure. You risked yourself for a simulation. No, she said, and her tone dropped to a whisper. I did it because I didn't want to see you fall. Over the next few weeks, we found reasons to talk more often. We shared rations in the observation bay. She claimed human food was too bland, but always finished my leftovers. She asked about Earth, about oceans, sunsets, laughter. She admitted her people didn't laugh much anymore. Not since the Great Wars that shattered half their civilization. So I told her jokes. Silly ones. Old ones. Sometimes she'd try to mimic laughter. The sound was strange and beautiful, like breaking glass tuned into music. One evening, during a quiet hyperspace drift, I told her something I'd been too shy to say before. You know, when I first met you, I thought you hated me. She gave a soft hum. I did not hate you. I envied you. Envy? Why? Humans carry light inside them. Even when broken, you shine. My people lost that long ago. She looked down, eyes dimming. When you spoke of Earth's seas and skies, I realized I have never seen something so gentle survive in this universe. I smiled. Guess we're tougher than we look. That made her laugh again, real laughter this time. Perhaps you are. The turn. Everything came to a head 3 weeks later, when we entered the Yareth Expanse, territory claimed by the Tarkine. It was supposed to be a routine scan. It turned into a massacre. Dozens of Tarkine warships surrounded us, demanding we surrender. Verithal refused. We do not kneel, she declared over the comms. They fired first. The Ravith was torn apart in minutes. The shields fell. Fires erupted across the decks. I was in the comm center when the hull breached. Through the chaos, I saw her fighting, blade glowing, armor shattered, still shouting orders as if the world itself would obey her voice. I tried to reach her, but a Tarkine soldier cornered me, its mandibles clicking. I had nothing, no weapon, no chance. Then out of nowhere she was there. Verithal cut through the insectoid like lightning, splintering its armor with one blow. She grabbed me, pulling me behind her as another wave of enemies swarmed in. Stay behind me, she roared. You'll die if you stay. I shouted back. Better me than you. Her voice cracked on the last word. She was bleeding, glowing liquid seeping through her armor. But she didn't stop. We reached the escape bay. She threw me into a pod and slammed the door. What about you? I yelled. The captain leaves last. The pod door locked. The last thing I saw before it launched was her standing against a wall of fire, blade in hand, eyes blazing like a dying star. Ending. When I woke up, I was in a recovery bay on an Allied cruiser. The Ravith was gone, destroyed. Most of the crew were listed as missing or dead. For days, I refused to believe she was gone. Then, during a briefing with command, the comm officer rushed in. Sir, we're picking up a life signal. Faint, but it's Varen. They brought her in hours later, half her body encased in crystal splinters. But she was alive. When she saw me, her eyes softened instantly. You're alive, she whispered. So are you, I said, tears welling up. You saved me. Her crystalline hand trembled as it brushed my cheek, gentle despite its sharp edges. I told you, she murmured. You are my crew. No, I said softly. I think it's more than that. Her gaze held mine for a long moment. Then, for the first time since I met her, she smiled without mocking. Perhaps, she said, it is. Weeks passed. We both recovered slowly, she from her wounds, I from the loss. On the day she was cleared to leave medbay, I brought her a small object I'd crafted, a pendant made of melted ship alloy shaped like Earth's moon. She held it carefully, as though it were made of starlight. "This is your world's moon?" "A symbol of home," I said. "Something to remind you of light, even in darkness." Her voice was barely a whisper. "You would give this to me?" "You saved my life," I said. "You deserve more than I can ever repay." She stared at it for a long time, then looked at me. Her voice trembled. "When you first told me humans fight for love, I laughed. I did not believe you. But now—" She reached out, her crystalline hand closing gently around mine. "Now I swear, by my life and my honor, that none shall harm you while I breathe." I swallowed hard. "You don't have to. I want to." Her eyes shone like twin suns. "Because you reminded me what it means to feel alive." That night, as the stars drifted outside our window, she stood beside me in silence. I realized then, somewhere between her laughter and her vow, she had changed. And maybe, just maybe, so had I. She laughed at first, but then she swore she'd protect me with her life. And I knew she meant every word.